They did it again. The Cardiac Commanders are alive. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media. That's Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now that you're going to want to read because it's recapping the Commanders' 23-20 last-second win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, giving the franchise their first playoff victory since, you know this, 2005. What a night for the Commanders and the organization here in Tampa Bay. I'm going to get to all this stuff because of what it means and what a special night it was for this organization and for you, the fans, to watch what finally happened, something you've been waiting for a long time. The journey is not complete, but you know, and I know what this night means. Some of you, I'm going to guarantee, have probably been shedding tears tonight, and I don't blame you. You have waited so long for this that I'm happy that you get to enjoy it and you get to celebrate what this night means. It is not, you're not raising a banner for this night, but man, did you exercise some ghosts again. Look at what's happened this season. No 11-win season since 1991 did it this year. No playoff win since 2005 did it this year. Just so many things have taken place this year that just pretty much proves how much this organization has been transformed in the last year. And really since July 2023, when you know that Josh Harris bought the team. And that's why we're going to start right there, folks, because there's so much emotion that was taking place in this building, from the Commanders faithful in the stands to the players coming off the field to the ownership group outside the locker room. Man, was it raucous. You had Mitch Rayo sitting there hugging everybody. Mark Ein doing the same thing. You had Josh Harris, who was coming out of the locker room, hugging family members, hugging friends. You had Magic Johnson out there as well, hugging people, embracing Josh Harris. And then when we're sitting there talking to Magic Johnson, along comes Terry McLaurin, and you saw Magic was pointing to him from a distance as he's surrounded. So we're in this like cramped little hallway area, not a ton of room, a lot of media, a lot of family. So many people are milling about there, and there's a group of reporters around Magic Johnson, cameras pointing at him. We're waiting for the press conferences to begin, and here comes McLaurin, who's going to be the first one at the podium that we talk to. Well, Magic Johnson sees him and starts pointing to him and smiling. You have McLaurin coming up to him, giving him a big hug, and Magic Johnson telling him, "That's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about." So just so much emotion in there, man. I haven't seen this in a long, long time. I haven't seen anything like this, folks. And you know I've been here for a minute. You guys haven't seen anything like this. That's why I said it a number of times that you're not going to have another season like this. Please enjoy this one. They may go on to win a title this year, next year, some other year. Well, if they do it this year, this would be incredible. But in future years, sometime soon, they could go on and have, be a better team and win a Super Bowl. But you're not going to have a year as memorable as this one throughout the entire year. Maybe a better postseason. We'll see what happens this year, but it's just going to be hard to duplicate what this group has done and what they have meant to the future of this franchise in the DC area. This group is going to get a stadium built. They're going to try like hell to get it built at RFK, but just think they have reinvigorated a fan base that had been kicked to the curb for so long by the previous group. And now you're awakened. Now you're back. Now they're back. Now you have a quarterback that you can build around and watch and enjoy for a long, long time. That's why tonight was so significant, because it also, listen, man, this is where the season started for them. And to come down here, it was a 37-20 loss in the season opener. This is a far different team than it was then. And I talked about that on Saturday. Now, did I think they could come and do this? Well, yeah, I thought they could win this game. And I will say this, we talked about this. No team wants to see Washington with the ball with the last possession with Jayden Daniels at quarterback. They just don't. And certainly when that happened, like, you know what was going to happen. You knew what was going to happen. And even, even if your heart fluttered for half a second when that ball, when Zane Gonzalez's kick hits off the upright, and it starts to come down, you can see some of the Tampa fans celebrating like he was going to miss, and then it bounces over. You know that in years past, that ball bounces out the other way. This year, those football gods are rewarding your asses for being so loyal and faithful and sitting there and, buying into this team and sticking around to see, would it ever get better? And folks, it is getting better. It has gotten a hell of a lot better. It's funny because when people ask me during the year, like, what's been the transformation like after the ownership change and all that, and the one example I would give is in the Wizard of Oz. The scene where the Wicked Witch of the West gets doused with water and just kind of shrivels away, and it's like, ding dong, the witch is dead. There you go. That's what's happened in this place. And again, tonight is yours to celebrate, and you should, because I don't know, like, what else is left to say here? It's amazing what they have done, and they continue to do it. That's 5 games in a row decided, whether on the last play from scrimmage or on the last play period. That, they beat New Orleans, stop a 2-point conversion, beat Philadelphia, throw a touchdown pass on the last play from scrimmage, beat Atlanta, overtime, beat Dallas, their last play from scrimmage. And then tonight, with Jayden Daniels leading the offense down the field for the game-winning field goal by Gonzalez. They had the ball for, I think it was like 4 minutes and 41 seconds, something like that, 4:49, something like that. But they ate it up. And I felt like they used the clock very well. They got to near midfield and they ran the ball a couple of times. You got to run some clock, bleed some clock, and then you can attack. And that's what they did. So just a really good job overall. But this is what this team has been built for. They have so many parts that are hard to beat, that top what, you can look at the roster and pick out areas of need and areas where you have to improve. But what you can improve is with the intangibles that they have and how much that matters in these kind of moments. The belief that they have. Again, you may have a roster that has bigger name players, but will you have a better team? That's what this team is. This is the definition of a team. I have never covered a team as close as this one that embodies what a team is more than this group. And that's been true since the beginning. And again, told you before, like, didn't know what it meant in the spring, wasn't sure what it meant in the summer, but damn well knew that it would mean that they would max out this year. And that's what they're doing. They're beyond maxing out, folks. They're squeezing everything they can out of it. But again, they exemplify what a team should be. You have, John Allen was talking about this, that there's no bickering among groups or anything like that. You see more interaction between a number of groups. Some of the changes that took place, like in meetings, you have Bobby Wagner sitting next to Jayden Daniels. You have a locker room that is no longer separated by position groups. You have different guys. It's a random grouping. It used to be all by position groups. Now, does that make a difference? Well, I don't, maybe. What I do know, though, is they got the right people in here, and that's where it starts with that. And that's Adam Peters getting Dan Quinn, and then together going out and getting the number of free agents they had: Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, and then, guys like Noah Igbenogany, guys who have just come in and done a good job, even if it's in a backup role. Jamison Crowder, bringing him back. You can go on and on about guys who have done just the right job. And then, of course, there's Jayden Daniels. And man, it's just unbelievable to think how far they've come. And I have people tell me how much fun this team is to watch. I mean, other reporters saying that, and just how much they enjoy watching this team because of the grit that they show, and they do. You get into these moments, and John Allen talked about, like, he wasn't surprised that the kick went in, because this is just kind of what's been happening all year. Not that they're getting lucky breaks. They haven't been lucky at all. Like, that was a fortunate bounce. That might be the one lucky bounce that they've really had this year. But these winning moments is the residue of, it's the residue of preparation. It's what they put into it. So, like, that's not luck. What they've done is by design in those moments. Now, Could you put the game away a little bit earlier? Maybe, but they just beat a really good team on the road, and that's, this is how you do it, and this is what the playoffs are about. And isn't it fun for you? Now, of course, I think I forgot to say this, but they play Detroit at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. That, of course, is going to be a hell of a game and a very tough matchup. Not going to worry about that right now. We'll get into that as the week goes on, because I know how tough Detroit is. That offense is really, really good. And we'll see what happens there. It's going to be a very tough environment, but it'll be a lot of fun. And I think, like, at this point, I think this team is playing with house money. Now, it doesn't mean you just go in there and say, hey, they're satisfied to be here. I don't think that's how this team thinks. I don't think so at all. I was texting with somebody earlier in the day, just said, what do you think? Like, what's it like around them? He said, the vibes are very high. Like, this team wanted this game because they had lost to Tampa Bay in the first game, and they felt like they had dramatically improved. And I think you saw that all night in a couple different ways. Now, you can look, I was going to start with Jayden Daniels, but I'll get to him in a minute because we talked a lot about him. But let's start with the defense. First of all, Bobby Wagner recovering a huge fumble late in the game after they had failed on that fourth down and 2 inside in deep in Tampa territory, or fourth and goal from the 3. And that was a key moment. Like, that's the second time they were stopped on fourth down tonight. That was a huge, huge turnaround. And then to get the ball right back, and then for the offense to score, because you needed to get a touchdown in that situation. You were down 17-13. You had to get a touchdown. And that's when Jayden Daniels came through. And I'll get to that in a minute, but let's go to the defense, because I think this was my big concern. They had not faced an offense like this in a long time, like where you had a high quality quarterback, you had a balanced attack. They hadn't faced that in a while, and they've been very up and down, and they had not played the run very well at all, or consistently well, because in some halves of games, Bijan Robinson and Barkley, in the second half of those games, they did better. Okay. But consistently, that was not a strength. But tonight, they did a really good job. Now, it wasn't like they just, what helped here, the offense had the ball for 35 minutes. You do that, you keep an offense off the field. And then the defense did come through when it absolutely needed to. They held Bucky Irving to 77 yards. Now, part of it was, he's a very good runner, and they create good cutback lanes for him. But a couple of things they did well. The ends were doing a good job setting an edge and keeping them contained. So even when he squeezed through, there wasn't this huge, like, oh, that's almost a breakaway for a touchdown. He didn't have a lot of those. So they did a good job containing him, especially early in the game, and setting a good tone for that. Bobby Wagner on the second play of the game stuffs him. And that just kind of sets the tone, like, hey, they're going to be here all night. But I think you have to give the defense a lot of credit, because they were as gap sound as they've been in a long time against the run. And that's one of the things I was talking to Jeremy Chin. He talked about the communication aspect on defense, even against the run, and how it led to being gap sound. When you're gap sound, you might, and they were tackled well too. That was the other key. And so you might, even if your gap sound, sometimes they're going to get you. It's a good running team, but they didn't let them control the game on the ground. Now, they did give up some big plays in the pass game. Mayfield was 15 for 18, but he had four plays for 20 yards, or four pass plays with 20 yards or more. They had 5 in the first game, but the difference was they had 3 30-yard gains, 3 30-plus yard gains in the opener, none tonight. Part of the reason for that was they did a much better job of containing him when he got outside the pocket, or if he started to scramble. In fact, more often than not, he had to either run the ball, which he typically does not want to do. He wants to get rid of it and make a big play. They plastered much better. You go back and watch that first game, plastering was bad. There were just a lot of missed assignments. Now, tonight, the passes they give up were not due to missed assignments. It was getting beat. There's a difference. But when he did scramble, they did a much better job of plastering on their guys to prevent those big pass plays down the field. Did have some hiccups in the pass game, and involved Marshawn Lattimore against Mike Evans. Typically, he does pretty well against him. We know that. I pointed out the numbers on Saturday in my 5 things, I think. However, he did not look like a guy. And let me take that back. He looked like a guy who hasn't played in a while and does not have his rhythm on defense. Like, there were a couple of times where, he's in the one touchdown, he had one, he's playing for a fade and he gives up a slant and in the end zone. And then he has another time where it just gets a little bit off balance. It felt like his feet were a little bit more impatient than they normally are. Just got, just was able to, Evans was able to get him on some things because of that. So it was not a great night for Lattimore. Had another pass interference penalty. That's four in his last, it was 4 in 4 quarters for him. So he looks like a guy who needs to get healthy and get right. And I don't know that he is at this point. And certainly he's going to be tested against Detroit. But they had at one point, they took him out and put Benjamin St-Juste in some goal line packages. And then after that, they had Samerstill a couple times. It was on Mike Evans. Tough matchup for Samerstill. It's just a size mismatch, folks. Um, so that was one of the blemishes, but this defense overcame all of that. And they did it. What they did is they held them to field goals when they needed to. The 50-yarder on the first drive, 32-yarder later in the game. They had a couple big plays on that first drive. Listen, if they get down 7-zip, then you're putting yourself in a hole. They only got down 3-0. The offense moved the ball. They failed on their first fourth down conversion, but they stayed aggressive with it. They went for it on, they had 4 fourth down conversions. And then they got their touchdown on their second drive, which was huge because now you can start to play from ahead or even, right? And so like that to me was as big a drive in the game, that 16, 17 play drive, which was their longest of the season. That was massive. And that drive also highlighted some of the things that Jayden Daniels did better in the open from the opener. Again, this is something we talked about. It's not like it was this 2 games, but over the course of the season, he really improved at keeping his eyes upfield when he ran. First game, didn't do it at all. Missed some big plays because of it. Missed some opportunities because of it. This game, you saw it. You saw him keeping his eyes upfield. Sometimes it meant he just had to run the ball, but a couple times it resulted in some really good key pass conversions, including on that first touchdown drive. It was the 3rd and 6. He's rolling out to his right, sees Zach Ertz over the middle, back over the middle. Typically dangerous pass over the middle, but there was nobody there. So he completes the ball. Drive keeps going, they go down and score. He had a couple plays like that, and that again represents a difference. And you have to give Daniels a lot of credit just because it's hard to really change with that just overnight. And he started to change on that early in the season after that game because it was a point of emphasis. And the one thing with him is you don't have to emphasize things too often. I mean, look, you go back and watch that first game, some of the awkward falls that he had. Now how he slides much better, just so much. Those are little things, but just a lot of improvement in him overall. And he was 24 for 35, 268, 2 touchdowns, just another cool, calm delivery. And it's funny because when you talk to him after the game, somebody asked him, when he was talking to Mariota at the 2-minute warning, he's like, what were you guys talking about? He's like, he has no idea. He's like, you just kind of black out. He said he didn't even remember on the game when he kicked how he felt. He said what he remembers is Charlie Muley, who is one of their, number 2 in charge in their communications department, just telling them they had to do some interviews. That's what he remembers. He's like, I don't even think I smiled, but he is so much locked in the moment and then on to the next moment. And after that it's like, and Dan Quinn said, if they had put a heart monitor on Jayden and one on him, you would see that they'd be very, very different. Like Daniel would be steady. He said, Quinn said he would look more like a duck. It might look one way up here, but then you see under the water, your feet are going crazy, right? Like a duck trying to paddle. So he's just a different guy, but it's why in those moments he's really good. And Sam Cosmi said, he said his thing was, we don't waver. Some teams crumble. We don't. And that's very true. They do not. It's not just Daniels, folks, because if it was just him, then, I will say the belief, I think, definitely stems from that, having a guy like that. But we saw it against Dallas, too, with Marcus Mariota in there. This team just believes. And when you believe and you believe you can win, it can take you a long way. Again, you just don't have a lot of teams that come through like this. And it's why Detroit is going to be, they might look at the roster. Fans might look at the roster. Oh, they could be better here, but you can't. It's how do you what value do you put on that belief and that brotherhood and that togetherness? How much does that elevate a team's game? Well, we've seen what it's done here. 13 wins, 6 in a row. Like this is a team that teams don't want to play. You think Philly would want to play this team right now? Hell no. Maybe they beat them, but they may not want to play them right now. So, but yeah, it's incredible what they've done. And just Watching Daniels lead another game-winning drive. He was 3 for 3 for 44 yards on that drive. Had the keeper on 3rd down and 2 for 4 yards that allowed by converting that allows them to run out the clock. The 4th and 2 to Terry McLaurin, very, very calm. So he's looking, McLaurin's on the left. Daniels is looking to his right, looks back to his left. There's McLaurin. Actually, he could have hit Austin Eckler over the middle, probably, and he would have gotten probably the first down, would have had to squeeze through, but he probably almost likely would have gotten it. But he goes to McLaurin in the end zone, who makes a nice catch for the score. And that's 11 red zone touchdowns now for McLaurin. That's as many as he had in his first 5 years combined. Just think about that. But it's why the guy's second team all pro this year. And then there was the touchdown. And then De'Ami Brown having a huge game. Like, how about that? And you know what? That's where you should be happy for too. The people that I'm happy for on there is guys like McLaurin, guys like John Allen, Sam Cosmi, De'Ami Brown, Tress Way, guys who have been here, Deron Payne, guys who have been here and been through all the crap that has taken place over the years here. And I don't have to go through all that because you know it. But De'Ami Brown's caught a lot of crap over the years, and he hadn't produced. This year he's produced when they have needed him, and tonight they needed him, and he kept coming through for Daniels, and had he's a tough runner, and he's making some tough plays. But I think when somebody's gone through what he's gone through and he's getting chances, he's making the most of them, and that's what a team is. But I also like how this staff has found ways to use him, which is what they're paid to do. And they do it well. But, on his touchdown pass, it took, this is, again, the protection here. The Bucs, we know, get after him. They got after Daniels. But on these touchdown throws, on the first one to Brown, Daniels had 3.94 seconds to get rid of that ball. And, man, just a good ball to him, back of the end zone. One thing that helped there, McLaurin was lined up on the right side, runs a crossing pattern to the left flat where you take the eyes of the defense over there, and they somehow lost De'Ami Brown, who was running the left side, just sneaks to the back of the end zone. But you can credit McLaurin. I'll give him a hockey assist on that touchdown, because that's why he got it, because he was there. And so it happens when you're a good player, they get attention, and others get open, and this kid found him. So just, man, no punts for Tress Way. How about that? His first playoff win ever. He doesn't even get to punt the ball, which is a good thing. He got to hold the ball, which is a better thing. And so it just so much went right for these guys. And it's so deserved for you guys to enjoy this. Look at the first game here. 2 missed field goals tonight. You get the doink, you get a made one, then the doink to win the game. So it just shows you how different things are at this point for this franchise. And so I don't know, folks, I don't know what more to say to you, because I'm happy for you guys. And there were a lot of Washington fans down here. It's been a crazy few weeks, and it's going to get crazier this week, going to Detroit for an 8:00 game on a Saturday night. But this team's playing well. And when you have that belief, it can take you a long way. And I don't know how to emphasize anything more than that, because when way back in the day in 2001, when Marty Schottenheimer was the coach, like, that team wasn't ultra talented either, but they had a belief. I think when some of those Gibbs teams, they had a belief. Now, I remember just when I first moved to DC, before I was even covering this team, I'd watch the Redskins games, and you see some of the roster, like, where is it? Why is this defense so good? You look at the names, like, is it really? But it's how they played together. It's how they played for one another. It's the coaching that was involved. All that mattered. And this group, I think, has that. And I think, you have to admire, like, the way Kingsbury calls a game for this guy, for this offense, and just the multiple packages they use, the spots they get guys in, and using all your guys, right? McNichols played, Brian Robinson has not been as effective. They still find ways to move the ball. So just big hat tip to what they have done. And Joe Witt and his staff, I think, have squeezed everything out of this defense. This defense now is physical, and that's one of the things that they wanted to be. And I think tonight you saw that they were not as physical in the first game. They were tonight. So that's a big reason why I think this team is advancing. This group has gotten more and more physical throughout the season. And I think we're seeing the results of that. And then you have the leadership of guys like Wagner, who is beloved by these guys. So it's a fun group to be around. It's a fun group to watch. You get to do it for at least one more week. And there you go. Anyways, folks, that's it for me. I'm wrapping it up from Tampa. I got a 7 a.m. flight. So by the time you see this, I'll probably already be home. But appreciate you tuning in. I'll be back on Tuesday morning with another episode, and then Tuesday night with Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, 7:30 Eastern time for the live stream. Join us then. Going to be a fun week, folks. Let's talk about it. Have some fun. I'll talk to you next time.